Hi sewing friends, my name's Karina and my channel is called Lifting Pins and Needles. Thank you for being here. Now I'm super excited to bring you my first hack to the Marfy skirt, the free PDF pattern I've been talking for a few videos ago. You're probably sick of them. Anyhow, it's a really nice day. I'm super cheerful. The birds are singing. The fauna is very active out there. It's August. It's breeding month for the feline creatures out there. I can just hear the cats yowling at each other, you know. I love cats. I just love their interaction. And because I don't have a cat, you know, currently, there are some male cats that come and mark all my house as theirs, you know, and they fight out there and they're like claiming it as their own, and it's very interesting. Anyhow, back to the Marfy skirt. I've already showed you an introduction to the Marfy 0757 skirt that is free as a PDF when you open an account. There are many videos about it, you know, in the last couple of days. So I had an idea, and you know when you wear leggings, you know those leggings that have no seam on the side seam, it's just like one open piece. And I've actually made the Shelly leggings from Seam Work that don't have a side seam, and they're so comfortable. They're so comfortable. You basically feel like you're not wearing anything. It's like that naked feel, but you're actually covered. You know, you have to be. So I wanted to recreate that in a skirt made out of a knit as well. So I thought this pattern was awesome. I already talked about the base skirt pattern being slightly A-lined and how I corrected that, because I want my skirt block always to be just a rectangle. You know, it's much easier to make modifications like that. So I wanted to make a skirt that had that legging feel, that naked feel, that comfy PJ feel. You know what I mean? I like wearing skirts. I'm a huge skirt wearer. And if I can have like a nice looking skirt that feels that way, it's a win in every way. Now I'm going to show you how I created this skirt that has no side seams. The only way that you get all the shaping, you know, from your hips to your waist is by using the darts on the skirt. And well, I'm not going to go on that much because you're going to see it on the video. And just so you get an idea of what I'm doing, I'm going to insert a photo here of like a little sketch. You can see all the pattern pieces laid next to each other. So the back skirt piece is open, like on the fold. You open both pieces. And then the skirt front is on one side and the other one on the other side. Now, I believe the front bit wraps over when you're wrapping stuff, but I think in this skirt I did it the other way. It doesn't matter. You need to leave one of those front pieces long. Both have an excess, you know, there. And now it depends on the width of your hips, how much excess fabric along the width of the whole fabric you're gonna have in excess. So I would recommend knits that are like 58 inches wide, you know, around that mark, 140 centimeters. Now in my case, my hips, you know, with no ease or anything, measure 112. That means I have an excess of how much? 28 centimeters to play around with. So yeah, have a play. If your hips are smaller, you might have too much fabric to wrap around. So just have a play and see what you like. Now in the video, you're going to see me mention and show a curved waistband. You already know how I created that. If you haven't, you can go ahead and watch the previous video. I'll insert an iCard here so you can go and see that, because I already showed you how I didn't mention it here in the process of making this skirt. So enough blab, let's go ahead and watch how I made it. The idea for this wrap skirt is that there aren't going to be any side seams. So this Marfy skirt pattern is perfect, and Marfy patterns come with no seam allowance. So you don't need seam allowances on the sides for this type of pattern because you're not going to have a seam there. So I have placed the back piece there on the fold, right there. And then I've placed the front right next to it, lining up the sides of the pattern. And then that hip curve that you see there is going to turn out to be like a big dart. After you've sewn up this huge dart, then you're going to trim it off, and it'll be like a sort of like a seam that will taper off to nothing there. And then you're going to do your back darts like normal and your front darts like normal. And I'm going to cut up there, leaving a 1 centimeter seam allowance on the top so I can attach a waistband, and I'm going to follow that shape all the way there, and this bit that's hanging off the pattern is what's going to wrap. So I have one that is shorter than the other, and because that is the way it's going to wrap. So there's one side that's going to be more tucked in than the other. Yeah, so this is a super easy skirt to do, because basically you're just sewing up a bunch of darts and you're finishing that edge there, and you're hemming it, and then you're wrapping it and adding on a waistband. But I'll show you step by step. For now, I'm just going to mark on these darts and that hip curve onto the fabric. I finished marking all the darts. This is my back, so that's on the fold, and that is the back dart. This is going to be the hip dart, and that is the front dart. And here I've marked the line of where my center front is, and this is the same on the other side. If I flip this over, I've got the same markings there. So basically all these darts is what's going to give it shape at the top, but there's not going to be any seams here whatsoever. To finish these edges, I have cut out some facings, so just long strips, nothing special there. And then I have the curved waistband. So I didn't have enough to cut with the main fabric, so the external waistband will be of the main, and the internal one will be of this black jersey that I buy specially for waistbands. So it's just more stable that way. I have sewn up all the darts. So that is the front dart there. That is one of the fronts that's going to wrap. Now this is a big hip dart that I'm actually going to overlock from there on and trim it, so it will just be like a seam. The two back darts, the other hip dart, and the other front dart. Now the front part that's going to be visible on the outside of the wrap, I have pinned on there the facing. As you can see, I'm going to sew that. And the other side that's going to be the inside bit, I'm not going to do the facing just to avoid bulk on the waistline. So because this is just going to be inside, I'm going to overlock, fold in, and just sew. And then I'm going to hem the bottom, overlock, hem up. And so this type of wrap skirt is not going to be a real wrap skirt. It's going to be fully closed. So it's going to be like this sort of thing. So this facing is going to be folded in like that. It's going to be all closed up on the waist, and I have to attach on the waistband up there. Here are my two waistbands for my skirt. So one is the external one is the internal. The black's going to go inside. I have sewn them on with very narrow zigzag stitch. I'm going to put right sides together. I'm putting right sides together. You can see my stitching lines there meet up the side seams, and I'm going to pin and then finish all around the top and sew. I'm going to go ahead and pin all that and twin needle the whole thing. So one there, all the hem, and then up. When that's done, this is going to be the part that goes inside the skirt. This is going to be the part that crosses. In here I have marked the middle. If you can see, there's a red line there that marks the middle, and the middle I'm going to match those up because that's where it crosses over, and then it'll be all closed up, and then the waistband goes attached. Started twin needling the narrow part of my skirt, the part of the skirt that will be tucked inside the wrap. As you can see, I'm guiding myself using like a 1 centimeter hem allowance. Then I pivot there, and then I go and I have a 3 centimeter allowance there. So I think with twin needles, if you leave your hem wider, I think you have a better result than when you leave it really narrow. This fabric takes the twin needle super well. There's no like tunneling or any weirdness. I just go slow. After doing that hemming on all the edges of the skirt, the front and the bottom, I attach the waistband open to my skirt. You can see I've pinned it there, and I'm sewing with a narrow zigzag stitch, being careful with going over those seams. You can see on the left part of the screen the black part of the waistband hanging. and that's going to be the internal part of the waistband. So as you can see here, there's many layers that are going to start, and that is where the overlap starts. So I'm always flipping to make sure I don't stitch the darts on the wrong way. Now here you have to be really careful. It got a bit thick, so I just went and started sewing slower. On the front bit of the skirt, there is a section where you have all the extra layers. I wrapped the thin elastic about 1/4 inch around my waist, snug but comfortable. I marked quarters on that elastic, and I'm matching up those quarters with the waistband. You can see there's a pin coming there, and I go stretching out the elastic slightly as I attach it onto the edge of the waistband, you know, the seam on the top of the waistband. So this will just give a bit more structure at the top and help it stay up. You can see now that the elastic is attached on, it stretches with the waistband, giving it stability. Now we flip over that waistband and we push the seams up, and then the internal part of the waistband just goes over that. So then I'll put pins everywhere there on the side, and I'm going to top stitch that with a twin needle. As you can see there, I'm going with the twin needle. I'm guiding myself with the presser foot on the left, and very, very close up. I go super slow sometimes, lots of layers here, all the way around the waistband. So here is my skirt. You can see it's made out of a knit jacquard. You saw the fabric up close when I was sewing on the waistband. And you can see that in my case, I made the left wrap this way. I'm always confused, I think it's the right side that wraps over there. Anyway, I just chose to leave the left side of the skirt longer this way than the inside bit, although they both wrap in there a lot, you know? And you can choose to make a really, really long waistband and put the waistband along the length of the skirt, wrap it, and then use whatever closing method you want at the top, clasps, hook and eyes, buttonholes with buttons, you know. And I have done that in the past, and because I've had an incident where I suddenly found myself with my skirt on my ankles and myself with my bare legs in public, I've never made a wrap skirt like that again. So I make the wrap all the way in there, but I always enclose it up safely with a waistband because it's just safer that way, you know. There's danger in wrap things, they can come unwrapped. So I mean, you can make this style midi length, long length, whatever length you want. You can see I've got a curved waistband, and the way I attached it was the same way I would attach a waistband on a woven, and that's just to avoid the bulkiness here. You saw I top stitched down the waistband here on the front or all the way around, and I use the twin needle because it stretches with the waistband. There's a little elastic inside to give it more support, the same as I did with my red mermaid skirt. Now what I haven't talked about is the hem. So you can see it's asymmetrical. The part that goes inside is shorter than the part outside. And now this wasn't planned, this was just an happy accident as I call, because things happen while you're sewing that give you different ideas. So initially the skirt was too long, it was below my knee. I tried it on, and even Martin was like, oh no, he's like, it's too long, it's too long. So I made him pin on one side with 2 pins. Just pin it, because when you're standing, it's easier to get someone else to measure your hem for you sometimes. When you're trying to bend over, it's harder, you know. So sometimes I get Martin to pin up my skirt just above the knee. I tell him, feel the bone and pin it. So he did that on one side. I went to look at the mirror, and this was the side that was pinned, you know. So I could have just cut the whole thing straight, but I thought, hey, that looks pretty cool. So that's why you see that asymmetric hem. And so all I did was taper from that length all the way to the other side, and it's like slanted. And then I created a thick hem. It's about 3 centimeters, also twin needled like you saw. Now with knits, I like chunky hems. They just hang better, the twin needle takes it better, you get less like channeling, it just looks nicer. So I wouldn't make a hem like a tiny hem and then twin needle. You don't get like a nice result like that usually. So I wouldn't do this asymmetrical thing like that on a woven, because it would be really hard to fold up the hem nicely unless you were using a facing. So I think this happy accident worked well with a knit. Now the thing I want to point out, the Marfy skirt block is based for wovens. So it has minimal ease around the waist and hips. You don't really need ease when you're making things on your lower half, that much ease as you need on the upper half. I did size down. Now, when you make things with knits, the only thing that really changes is the circumference around you, that you need it to have a little bit of negative ease, because the length of your darts, all that doesn't really change. And I got a nice snug, comfy fit, not extra tight, but not loose. Had I made my normal size, it would have been too loose for this fabric. Now, if you don't want to use the Marfy skirt, or you don't have a skirt block, you can still make this. Get your trusty skirt pattern and just remove the side seams and then place your pattern pieces together. Because you're creating that big hip dart, you know, you don't want that seam allowance there. You want to remove it, place them together, draw your hip curve, and there you go. You can still make it. I'm going to show you some pictures now of the skirt. I hope this video was useful for you. Have a go at making a skirt like this. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has made a skirt like this. I don't know. Easy peasy skirt to make. Very easy. Once I just sussed it all out, it was just make a bunch of darts, sew on a facing. Easy. I hope you have a go at making something like this. You cannot believe how comfortable it is to wear an item like this. And I would always make it out of a printed fabric, because with prints you can't tell that there's no side seam, you know. It just blends, you know, the hip curve is going to blend into the print. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like. When you like a video, it means that the content is relevant for you and YouTube sort of gets the picture, you know. You can subscribe for more sewing content and hit the notifications so you never miss a sewing tip. Thank you for watching. Have fun sewing. Bye.